Today I'm going to walk you through the journey we've been on to better understand and improve cat welfare and population management across 5 countries. This work is about rethinking the way we approach unowned cats, not just through isolated interventions, but through grounded, evidence-based strategies that are built from the inside out. In 2024, International Cat Care, supported by Batters's Global Enablers Grant, began this pioneering project in 5 pilot countries: the UK, Australia, Portugal, Greece, and Cyprus. Each country brings a different context, but all share similar challenges: cat overpopulation, unowned cat welfare issues, and fragmented approaches. The goal wasn't to come in with all the answers, but to really understand each system as it actually functions on the ground through the perspectives of those already embedded in it. Now, because iCat Care is based in the UK, we already had a pretty good understanding of the system there and some established strategies and approaches, so my role was to focus on the other 4 countries. Cat welfare and overpopulation issues are found around the world, but even if on the surface they appear similar everywhere, they're really not. What tends to drive the problem are local systems, habits, histories, cultures, and stakeholder relationships. What we found, maybe unsurprisingly, is that many responses are based more on assumptions than insights, and those responses are usually highly fragmented. Without truly understanding the local system, even well-intentioned interventions can misfire or reinforce the wrong dynamics. To move forward, we need a structured, comprehensive understanding of what was really happening. Because before we try to change the system, we need to understand it. So how do we go about understanding the systems? Our approach was to triangulate 3 key sources. First was some desk-based research to frame the context of each country. We looked at everything that we could find that was already out there, things like laws and policies, regulations, published data, and media reports. Next, we conducted 128 stakeholder interviews across the 4 countries to gather on-the-ground views and perspectives. We spoke to a wide range of stakeholders, such as municipalities, national government, vets, private, municipal and shelter, NGOs, individual rescuers, policymakers, conservationists, public health officials, and many more. Lastly, we worked with a market research company to conduct national public opinion surveys to gauge the attitudes and behaviours of the general public. The surveys were extensive and covered all demographics from age and gender to cat ownership status and region. In doing all this, we captured not just the facts about the situations, but the perceptions, the tensions, the beliefs, the relationships, and the barriers. Together, this gave us a comprehensive and nuanced picture of each country's system, its challenges, its blind spots, and its opportunities. So what did all this tell us? Well, to begin with, when we step back and look across all 4 countries, we found recurring patterns, but also important paradoxes that reflect the messy reality of how these systems operate. First, the patterns. In every country, passionate individuals and organisations are doing extraordinary work, but they're doing it in silos. Whether it's NGOs in Greece, volunteers in Cyprus, or vets in Portugal, collaboration often depends on personal trust, not the structure. Former systems don't exist or fail to integrate the parts that do. There's also a shared lack of usable strategic data. Municipalities may be funding TNR, but few are tracking what's being done, how many cats are being reached, or whether populations are declining, and yet the expectation to solve the problem still remains. TNR appears everywhere, sometimes legal, often not, and frequently carried out in legal grey zones. It's being done because people believe it's the right thing to do, even when laws or funding structures don't support it. Now the paradoxes. In Portugal, vets are skilled and engaged, but access to training and systems to use that skill at scale are limited. In Greece, NGOs lead the system, but fear prosecution for doing so. In Cyprus, cat welfare is highly visible to the public and tourists, but remains politically sidelined. And in Australia, world-leading research exists, but it's disconnected from community-led or welfare-focused solutions. Across all four countries, we see that the same intervention can be celebrated in one place, tolerated in another, and criminalized in the third. The result is a patchwork of effort where the strongest force holding the system together is the resilience of individuals, not the design of the system itself. The implication of this is clear. These aren't just shared problems, they're system-specific realities. One-size-fits-all approaches won't work. Real change depends on understanding and designing for each local context. So now let's look a little at each country's insights. In Cyprus, the scale and visibility of the cat overpopulation makes it impossible to ignore. You see cats everywhere, from tourist beaches to hospital grounds. One rescuer said, "You don't count the cats, you count the places you don't have cats." Despite this, there's no national population estimate, no tracking of TNR outcomes, no framework for coordination. The result is a system built entirely on improvisation. Volunteers aren't just central, they're holding the system up. They neuter, feed, rehome, manage emergencies. In some municipalities they're supported, in others they're ignored or even obstructed. Government funding exists on paper, but many of the stakeholders that we interviewed said they'd never seen it. "It's a lottery," one vet said to me, "and this year we lost." Even when neutering programs are funded, there's no monitoring or follow-up. The success of a TNR campaign is often measured in whether it gets done, not whether it works. Tourism adds another layer of pressure. Cyprus wants to be seen as animal-friendly, but policies haven't caught up. NGOs say they're often contacted by tourists after they leave, asking what happened to the cats they saw. The scale of the issues and the silence of the state leaves many rescuers feeling burned out and alone. "I can't do this for another 10 years, one NGO leader told me. "But if we stop, there's no one else." Greece is a country where most of the system is unofficial. It's functioning, just not formally. The bulk of cat population management is led by volunteers and small NGOs, many of whom operate without clear legal protection or state partnership. While the law technically allows TNR, few people seem to fully understand the criteria, and even fewer feel safe operating within it. One stakeholder said, "It's legal if you do it right, but what does right actually mean?" Vets are crucial, but overstretched. We heard from one doing hundreds of neuterings annually, often at low cost or subsidized, but they described feeling left legally exposed when treating unowned cats. Most vet NGO relationships depend on personal trust or long-standing arrangements, and there's no structured network for these partnerships to grow or be supported. Municipalities are inconsistent. Some support and even co-fund programs, while others say outright, "This is not our job." Meanwhile, some very strong model projects do exist and show what's possible with coordination and data and political will, but these are the exceptions. They're highly visible, often externally supported, and not yet replicated elsewhere. A major frustration across all stakeholders was the gap between the law and their lived reality. Several interviewees shared stories of being reported to authorities for doing the very work that they were encouraged to do. The message was clear: until the law is not only changed but clarified and communicated, fear and confusion is going to continue to shape what gets done. In Portugal, we saw a country that isn't lacking in care, commitment, or technical skill, but one where the system hasn't yet caught up with its parts. TNR is legal, and many municipalities fund neutering to some extent. But there are no agreed standards, no consistent reporting, no mechanism to learn or improve across regions. One municipality mentioned that they neuter as many cats as the budget allows, without knowing how many there are or what impact they're having. Veterinary skill is not the issue. Portugal has excellent vets. Some are experienced in high-volume neutering, but training isn't always available or targeted. One stakeholder said, "You can have the best vet in the world, but if they've never done more than one cat a day, you won't get very far." At the NGO level, there's a mixture of brilliance and burnout. Several groups are operating strategically and collaboratively, but many are under strain, especially in regions without supportive municipalities. Importantly, collaboration is often based on personal relationships. One vet put it bluntly, if I know the NGO, I'll help. If I don't know them, I won't. The system works best where those informal networks are strong and breaks down entirely where they're not. Australia has perhaps some of the world's most advanced scientific understanding of cats, but that hasn't translated into system-wide solutions. National conversation is dominated by conservation concerns. Cats are framed primarily as threats to native species, and most policy reflects that. Yet on the ground, it's not that simple. In rural and remote areas, especially indigenous communities, the experience is very different. Stakeholders described cat problems as being more about resource gaps, welfare concerns, or community conflict, not ecology. But funding is overwhelmingly directed towards feral cat eradication and research, not community-level management. TNR is illegal in most jurisdictions, but we heard from multiple stakeholders, councils, vets, and NGOs who all practice it discreetly. One said it's illegal to do the right thing, but we do it anyway and hope no one finds out. This culture of quiet resistance creates ethical and operational strain. The regulatory landscape is deeply fragmented. Containment laws, microchipping rules, and even the definition of what a feral cat is can vary between not just states but city councils. You can literally have one rule on one side of the street and another rule on the other side. This obviously confuses the public, frustrates councils, and makes it almost impossible to run national campaigns or education efforts that apply consistently. Despite all this, there's extraordinary work being done. Individual councils, welfare groups, and researchers are all trying to solve the problem, just not together. Without integration or long-term investment in humane cat population management, these efforts will remain isolated, reactive, and vulnerable to policy shifts. One of the most important takeaways from this project is that while every country has its own unique context, the process we used to gather the information and understand the country, the situation, and the systems in place is absolutely replicable. Now, I'm not talking about just blindly copying what we did. This isn't about using someone else's solution. It's about using a proven framework to generate your own locally based strategy. What can be replicated is the method we used, seeking information, engaging stakeholders, asking the right questions, looking deeply at local realities and building from the inside out. That's what I think makes this approach both adaptable and powerful. Replication in this case means developing locally owned solutions based on local context and not assumptions or external models. And that's what will ensure both relevance and sustainability. Stepping back, the bigger picture here is that this process isn't just about 5 or 4 countries. It's about creating a roadmap that any country or region can use. The combination of evidence, local insight, and structured engagement provides a foundation for informed policy, better practice, and stronger public connection. This model shows how we can move from reactive, fragmented downstream efforts to proactive, system-aware upstream strategies that work in the real world. It opens the door to global collaboration, shared learning, and a common language around cat population management that still allows for local nuance. This is how we shift from individual interventions to a strategic system change. This principle is at the core of everything we've done at International Cat Care. Too often projects and interventions are launched before there's a clear understanding of what's really happening on the ground. That leads to wasted resources, frustrated stakeholders, and strategies that ultimately don't work or don't work as well as they could. Our process changes that. By investing time up front to deeply understand the system, how it works, where it breaks, and who it affects, we create a foundation for action that is meaningful and durable. Insight isn't a delay to action, it's the foundation to doing what works. So what comes next? First, we'll be finalizing and sharing full country insight reports and making that information accessible to those who need it. We'll also be supporting different stakeholders to adapt and apply this approach, offering resources and guidance. But more than that, we want to foster a community of shared practice. And that means connecting governments, NGOs, academics, and grassroots stakeholders who can share experiences and learn from one another and co-create better strategies. This isn't just about the next steps in cat population management, it's about building a better informed, more collaborative sector for change. If you want to find out more about this project and our work, sign up for our newsletter, or you can get in touch with me directly to find out more about this process and how you can adopt it. Thank you.